Let's get ready to fumble! What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Final Serve. I'm Tim, and I'm here with my co-host Joe.
What's up, everybody?
And let's kick it off with the debacle known as the New York Jets. You got Tebow asking for a trade, Sanchez on the bench, McElroy as your starting quarterback. Not like it really matters either way. This team has now been eliminated from the playoffs.
We
And
already know everyone's gone.
yeah, well, that was gonna be that was gonna be my question. So who stays and who goes? Will Rex be here next year? Is Tannenbaum gonna stick around? What are they gonna do with Sanchez since it now seems that they've given up on Sanchez?
Well, here's the thing. I don't see how you can keep Mike Tannenbaum. I think he's the first person that needs to go. He did not really do anything for this offense. His biggest acquisition for the offense was Tim Tebow.
Which
Really?
he did absolutely nothing with.
Really? Come on. Tim Tebow for that offense? Give me a break. Now, Rex Ryan, I am completely off the Rex Ryan bandwagon. He is not a head coach in this league. He's at best a defensive coordinator.
Oh, he'll make a very good defensive coordinator.
Oh,
also.
listen, he's always been a good defensive coordinator. He's smart when it comes to defense, but you can't have your head coach not care about the offense.
Oh, he's not in touch with the offense at all. And even, you go into this last game against the Titans, you watch their play calling on defense. In the first quarter, Chris Johnson was averaging 1.7 yards a carry. So you figure they got a good hold on Chris Johnson. Then he rips off that 94-yard gainer. Now, if you watch that play, all you see right up the middle are the defensive linemen there. There's no linebackers helping. There's no safeties in the middle. What did they think the Titans were going to do? Toss it left or right and try to run it up? You saw the middle was wide open. There was no one there to touch Chris Johnson.
Well, here's the thing. When it comes to that game, yeah, that was an awful scheme. And the whole, on the drive Jake Locker had to score the touchdown when he rushed in, reminded you of the Colin Kaepernick touchdown against the Jets when he ran it in earlier on in the year.
Yeah, but that Locker run up for a touchdown was really well blocked. I mean, I'm not going to kill the Jets on that play. I think with that Chris Johnson run, what bothers you is that it looks like Rex Ryan set the defense up to give the Titans a gift. Like, say, here, take it.
Right, but my point is that even though they gave up those two touchdowns, they only gave up 14 points in the game. You need to win that game. You're not going to win when your offense turns the ball over 5 times.
Well, the problem is with that, I'm not going to sit here and defend Sanchez to the grave because I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. But when he's finally getting in a groove, finally doing something against the offense, how do you take him out and put in Tebow? I'm not even a Jets fan, and I'm sitting there watching the game, annoyed because I feel like Sanchez is given more of a reason to fail rather than to succeed.
Well, if you remember while we were talking during the game, I said to you, doesn't it seem like the Jets are game planning against Mark Sanchez?
Oh, of course. I mean, and even like you watch the game, the offensive line didn't protect him at all the entire game, so he's like forcing passes. I mean, what's he gonna do? He's getting hit on every play.
When he did get protection, he was making the passes.
Yeah.
And even John Gruden said it. The receivers aren't open. What do you want? What is he gonna do if there are no open receivers? What are you gonna do? Now, I am a big supporter of Mark Sanchez, but I am not gonna completely defend him in this game. You cannot turn the ball over 5 times. You cannot. Let's be honest. You're fighting for your job at this point. You cannot turn the ball over 5 times.
The two turnovers that bother you the most are the interception he threw with triple coverage on the guy.
Well, that's another red zone turnover for him.
And also the fumble that ended the game. Now, granted, that's not entirely his fault because it was a low snap, but it still hit you in the hands. You need to come up with that ball. Even if you get sacked on that play, you still live for another down. They were still right there. I mean, part of you feels bad for this kid. I mean, he's given nobody to throw to. He has no offensive line. to help him out.
His running backs are
Oh,
decent
right
at
at
best.
best. Yeah, they're subpar. I mean, the kid has not been put in a situation to succeed, and you blame Rex Ryan and Tannenbaum for that. I mean, they got rid of players who helped them succeed in the first 2 years.
Well, and then you also go and you get an offensive coordinator who last year, as the head coach of the Dolphins, you know what their offense was ranked? 22.
And once again, another big move in the offseason.
And what was that series for Tebow? What was up with the play calling? You give the ball to Joe McKnight, he runs it for 10, 11 yards. Then on the very next play, Tim Tebow runs the ball up for 12 yards. Now, in that situation, why don't you follow the Denver Broncos model from last year and after two big runs, throw the ball downfield? Instead, what does Tony Sparano call? A little run up the middle. How predictable. You see the Titans loading up the box. How predictable.
But that's what they do. I mean, listen, Tebow shouldn't even have been in. How many teams, not even the good teams, how many teams out there have a 2 quarterback system?
None.
And this is why Tebow's being requested to trade. He was supposed to be number 2 on the depth chart, not 3rd.
Now
And he's not even. You traded this guy for a 4th-round pick, and you're not even going to give him a starting chance.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know. They're not going to get what they traded for him. They'll be lucky to get in my opinion, they'll be lucky to get a 6th-round pick for him because nobody's going to want him.
And listen, I sit here and I feel bad for Sanchez and Tebow because they ruined both their careers.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and turn around and say Tebow would have been an elite quarterback by any means, but the guy at least deserves one more shot at being a starter somewhere.
I think
he deserves his
one
right to
way or
fail.
another. I think one way or another he'll end up in Jacksonville. I think the owner really wants him there. The fans want him there. He'll get there. They need to draw, and he draws people. One way or another, he'll end up in Jacksonville. I don't know how they're gonna work out a trade. I don't know. Maybe they'll just cut their losses. I don't know what they're gonna do.
But then, what do you do with Sanchez? You got to pay this guy $8 million just to sit on the bench.
Well, here's the thing: you can't cut Sanchez. You get too much of a salary cap hit if you cut him. So either you try to trade him, but
to where?
Number one,
the best option for Sanchez to start would seem in Arizona, but they already have Cobb there, and are they going to give up on Cobb already, considering how much they gave up for him?
Right. And how much money they have invested in
him.
So the first question is, where does he go? And I would say the second question is, if he returns to the Jets, does he get the opportunity to compete for a starting job next year? Or is he already automatically sent to the bench?
Chances are, if Rex Ryan stays, they're going to keep Sanchez also. But I think one of the bigger determining factors is what McElroy does the next couple of games. If he turns around and has 2 solid games against the Chargers and Bills. I know we're not talking about the best defensive teams and the best teams in the NFL, but they're still NFL teams. If he turns around and throws a couple of touchdowns in each game and no picks, he might get the starting. He might be favored to get the starting job next year.
But you know what I'm worried about when it comes to McElroy? Are they gonna let him throw the ball? Or is he just going to be another game manager for the next 2 games? Because, I mean, to be perfectly honest, at this point, you have nothing to lose. You're not making the playoffs. You're done. Let the kid just throw the ball. See what he can do. You might as well get it out of the way now.
Yeah, but even when the Jets were good in their first couple of years, let's be honest, that's what Sanchez was. He was a game manager. I mean, they ran the ball for 200-plus yards almost a game. He basically fed off the play action. I mean, it wasn't like he was carrying these teams.
Right, but at the same time, he was still able to make the throws.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Game manager. They didn't put him in like 3rd and longs a lot of the times, or like put him in situations where he'd have to change the offensive line. He wouldn't have to, being the one calling the shots. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, everyone made such a big deal out of Greg McElroy, but if you look at what he did in that Cardinals game, he handed the ball off, and he threw really a pass that you or I could throw to Cumberland, who was wide open in the end zone. I want to see what he can really do when there's somebody in his face.
But that's what we're saying. That's what I was saying. In the next 2 games, we're going to find out what he has to offer.
Maybe, but what I'm saying is, I'm concerned that they're not going to let him do that.
Well, he's going to be put in situations where he's going to have to throw the ball. He's going to be put in the same situations Mark Sanchez was put in.
Yeah, well, we'll see if we get different results.
It's only 2 games. I mean, how much are you going to be able to tell? We thought Sanchez was the next big thing after the first 2 years. Look what happened to that. It looks like it's the end of that now.
Well, and you know what? I think it's a little sad because even though last year a lot of people say he declined, but he threw for more yards and he threw for more touchdowns with an even weaker offensive line. And this year he was complete garbage, but so was that entire offense. So is it him or is it a collective?
Oh, there's no argument. It's a collective gathering of all the pieces around him. I mean, look at he's without his number one receiver all year long almost, with Santonio Holmes.
Right.
He's thrown to a bunch of receivers that just don't get open anyway. He has a running game that doesn't protect him
Doesn't
at all.
have Dustin Keller
He do,
for most of the year.
he doesn't. His offensive line barely protects him. It's a collective gathering of things. He has to share snaps with his backup quarterbacks.
So then
Listen, the
maybe
Jets-
in the end next year the kid deserves another shot.
What's going to be the big change from this year to next year?
The big change has to be that this year, when you go into the offseason, you make a big splash in free agency, get some offensive skill players in the draft an offensive lineman.
I have an interesting thing. Turner's probably going to be fired this year. Why not bring him in as an offensive coordinator? He is an offensive guru. I mean, why not? If you're good to keep these guys, at least move forward.
Yeah.
Have Rex Ryan deal with the defense, which I'm completely fine about, and have Turner. If you have someone like Turner take care of the offense, maybe you're going somewhere with this. You still need a few more receivers. You still need a better offensive line, but at least you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I can agree with you.
This is if you're going to keep Sanchez around. I mean,
and I believe Chris Johnson is a free agent.
they're not going to get Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson's going to be offered too much money somewhere else. I don't think they're going to...
I think they need to take a shot.
Well, if you're going to talk free agents, what about Alex Smith? He's a free agent next year. If McElroy has 2 terrible games, Alex Smith is sticking out there. Why not give him a shot?
Alex Smith is basically when I look at him and when I look at Mark Sanchez, it's kind of like their careers are in reverse because Alex Smith was atrocious when he first started. Mark Sanchez, not saying he was great or anything like that, but back-to-back AFC Championship games, and then supposedly now has the big decline. And what does Alex Smith do? He goes to the NFC Championship game last year. And this year, quite frankly, I think he should still be the starting quarterback.
Yeah, he got thrown under the bus in that situation, but...
We've talked about that.
Well, listen, I'm going to sit here and tell you, I think Smith thrived under the 49ers system. They didn't have him do too much. I mean, he had a great running game to back him up anyway. Probably the best in the league.
He had people to throw to.
Yeah, he had... Well, not the first year they went.
He still has Vernon Davis.
Arguably
the best tight end in the game.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you getting Alex Smith is going to be a huge upgrade.
But don't you think he's an older Mark Sanchez?
But he's learned from his mistakes. You can make the argument. He's made improvements. That being said, though, this Chargers-Jets game, another snoozer. 2 teams that obviously can't make the playoffs. It's tough to pick a winner here because they're 2 teams that turn over the ball like crazy. Rivers has 30 turnovers this season with 15 interceptions, 15 fumbles. But the only reason I'd go with the Chargers in this game is because they have a better quarterback. And the Jets are trying to figure out now things for next year.
This game, I don't know. It's both teams are just so bad now. I'm gonna go with the Jets.
Really, after all this controversy and stuff,
I'm gonna go with them.
They couldn't even beat the Titans.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with them. I'm gonna pick the Jets. I know Phillip Rivers, very good quarterback, but that team has just been. He has no offensive line. His offensive line is arguably worse than the Jets' offensive line, and I think Muhammad Wilkerson and Quentin Coples will actually get to Phillip Rivers, and I think the defensive schemes that Rex Ryan is going to throw at them, it's going to, cause some errors. So I'm going to take the Jets. It's going to be another low-scoring game. We'll go 17-14.
Yeah, I agree with you with the low-scoring game, but I'm picking the team with the better quarterback, Phillip Rivers, and the Chargers. Give me them 20, the Jets 14. Too much disarray on the Jets for me to believe in them anymore.
Moving on to the New York Giants.
The other New York team. That's in the midst of their collapse.
Now, let me say this. The Giants need to win the next 2 weeks,
Well, that's without question.
right? If the New York Giants do not win the next 2 games, they are just as fraudulent as the New York Jets are. The reason why I say this is because of these people like Mike Lupica, who all year, oh, the Giants so much better. They're unstoppable. Well, you know what? That division isn't theirs anymore. Now, I think they're going to go and win the next 2 games. If they don't, they're frauds.
Well, turn around and say they're as bad as the Jets. I mean, come on.
I
There's
said
no.
fraudulent, just like the Jets.
The problem is with this Giants team is that they're just too inconsistent. You look at some of the wins they have. They have wins against some of the better teams in the league. They beat the Redskins once, who have that division right now with 2 games remaining. Destroyed the 49ers in Green Bay. And these are the 2 and 3 seed right now? I mean, it just bewilders you that the week before they put up 52 points and you couldn't get a single point in this game?
Well, listen, we both thought that they were going to beat up on the Falcons.
And and this is what I'm trying to say. This is a Falcons team that I know they're 12-2, but I don't think they're that good. I can see them being knocked out their very first playoff game, and once again we're talking about how they can't do anything in the playoffs.
Well, at the same time, I think that they really showed something in the game against the Giants.
Listen,
I
I
never
agree.
expected them to put up a goose egg.
I agree with you 100%. They definitely Matt
They
Ryan, I think, had the
exploited-
game of his career
They
against the Giants.
exploited the Giants' biggest weakness.
And their secondary. And I'll tell you one thing right now. I understand they had injuries, but I'm not using that as an excuse. But we all know the Giants have had a weak secondary for years now. That pass rush needs to wake up. I mean, where have they been I'm saying that week after week, I'm saying this. I'm sick and tired of saying it. Where has Tuck, Pierre-Paul, and OC been?
Non-existent.
I mean, except for that one game against Green Bay, and the 49er game also, they haven't really been there.
Well, I mean, and also, like, Eli hasn't looked like Eli.
Oh, this
So-
year, Eli has had a terrible year. I mean, he's gone 4 or 5 games throughout the season where he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. I mean, he has 20 touchdowns, 15 interceptions on the year. And it makes you wonder what happened to him this year. I mean, maybe playing so many games, not having enough rest in the offseason or something. Maybe because of the Sandy thing, people are using the stuff that happened in Connecticut as an excuse.
That just drives me crazy.
Yeah,
That has
well, listen,
nothing to
I
do with
agree with you.
anything.
You're
That has
absolutely right.
nothing to
People
do
are
with
using that
anything.
as an excuse that their mind isn't in the game. But come on, that's like using the excuse for Green Bay when the Giants beat them that the offensive coordinator's son passed away, and saying that was the reason why Green Bay lost. Come on, no excuses. The Giants are just an inconsistent team that,
but
quite frankly,
that has more merit. You know what I mean? Like that was like
the Sandy thing somewhat makes sense. I mean, Eli showed pictures on the internet of his house being flooded. Listen, no excuses. This team is extremely inconsistent. I mean, Eli's overthrown receivers. Even against the Saints, he had a couple balls that should have been interceptions that were dropped. Luckily, though, they're playing a Ravens team this week that's just as inconsistent as they are. The Ravens have lost 3 of their last 4 games. Their last win coming against the Chargers in overtime, which on 4th and 29, Flacco throws a 1-yard pass to Rice, and somehow the Chargers defense allows him to run up another 28 yards for the first down.
Well, it's either going to be a good thing for them or the Ravens are going to step up their game.
Well, it's
tough to tell
because you have a defense that's aging and it's hurt, and right now they're 26 against the run. So you got to figure Bradshaw's coming. Bradshaw said he's going to come back. They should be able to run the ball in this game, which will help Eli. The pressure won't be on him. Maybe he'll get a few play action passes off. It's hard to not believe though that Flacco won't have a big game, considering that the Giants' secondary is terrible.
Well, Anquan Bolden, look out for him.
I think the key to this game is stopping Ray Rice. Whenever Ray Rice has 20 or more carries, their winning percentage goes up tremendously. He is the key to stopping them. Take Ray Rice out of the game. Make Flacco throw the ball. And I understand it sounds crazy. I know I just made the point that their secondary has been awful, but the key to beating the Ravens is making Flacco throw the ball.
Because you know what? I'm sorry. I don't think Flacco's all that good. I think he's okay.
Well, it's funny, after him crying all offseason about how he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, how have you proved it this year? Congratulations, you went 1-1 against the Steelers when Big Ben wasn't playing.
Yeah.
And the one game you won, you didn't even put up an offensive touchdown in the game. Good job, Flacco.
They should have won the second game.
Way to show everybody that you're one of the top quarterbacks in the league. How about this? Do what Eli does. Keep your mouth shut and just win games. Why don't you learn from him? You know, him talking about and crying about how he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And they wanted to run him out of town a few years ago. I just got a feeling, to me, I feel like the Giants don't even deserve to make the playoffs. They've been way too inconsistent. This game's over in Baltimore. I don't trust the Giants. This is why I'm going with the Ravens.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like the Ravens are actually going to rise to the occasion. They're going to get smart in this game. They're going to let Rice run the ball. The Giants' secondary won't be able to stop Flacco. I mean, unless Prince comes back, I don't trust anyone. I mean, Webster has been awful this year. Allows tons of big plays. Which is why I think the Ravens are going to put up a lot of points in this game, too. I think the Ravens are going to win this game 35, Giants 28.
Oh man, it's tough picking this game because they're both just so all over the place at this point, and I think the Giants will win, and I think the Giants will make the playoffs. I think the Ravens are going to lose their fourth in a row. Give me the Giants 24, the Ravens 17.
Moving on from that game, we're going to talk about the Bengals-Steelers matchup. Basically, it seems whoever wins this game has the best chance of making the playoffs. I'm very intrigued in this game because since Big Ben's been out, they've lost 4 of the last 5. Had a chance to beat Dallas last week. Terrible interception by Big Ben in overtime. Andy Dalton's had a pretty solid year, throwing 26 touchdowns and 14 picks. The Bengals only allow about 100 yards a game rushing. They rush the ball for 120. I don't know if they'll be able to move the ball as easily against the Steelers' defense. I still like the fact, though, that the Bengals are on the rise. They've won 5 of the last 6. They're the hotter team going into this game. I think the Bengals are actually going to win this division. And who would have said this midseason when they lost 3 in a row? I mean, they looked awful at that point. But ever since beating the Giants, they've been on the rise. And I like this team right now. I think this is a team that could do some damage going into the playoffs. I think Big Ben getting knocked out and hurt killed the Steelers in their season. So it looks like the Steelers are going to miss the playoffs. I think this is a low-scoring matchup, a defensive matchup. I'm going to pick the Bengals in this one.
I think it's all about momentum, and I agree with you. I think the Bengals are going to win this game. It seems that the Steelers are just running out of gas at this point. I don't know. The Bengals are on the rise. It's just time. It's just time for a new team to make some noise, and good for them. I hope they make it to the playoffs and make things exciting in Cincinnati. Give me the Bengals 24, the Steelers 20. Our final game, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. Now, I got to tell you, I think Seattle's defense is going to eat up Colin Kaepernick. I think he's not going to get as many open looks as he did against the Patriots, which I'm still surprised that they won that game. Thought the Pats were going to make a strong comeback in that one. But anyway, it's going to be a defensive battle. I'm interested to see how both running backs do in this game because Lynch is a beast. So is Gore. So are those defenses. It's going to be a great game to watch. I'm looking forward to it.
I like those defensive showdowns.
Yes. It's going to be fantastic. But I'm telling you, Seattle, they're going to surprise a lot of people.
They're another team on the rise.
Yes, they are.
But I'll tell you what,
they are very good.
It's hard to root for Seattle, man. Because, they've blown out the last 2 teams they faced, scoring 108 points in 2 games. But what bothers you is that in both games, they did punt fakes and stuff like that when they were already a big. And it's like, why? Listen, there's no such thing as...
That's Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll is just a hard person to root for. I never really cared for him. Ever since he was with USC, I never really cared for him.
Listen, I don't believe you can embarrass a professional NFL team, but, it's just have some respect for these guys. You're up 30, 40 points in a game. What are you going for a punt fake for? What's the point? Brady
Well,
won the game.
I
Starters
guess
are being taken out. Why?
I guess he's going the Bill Belichick method. Just stop us.
Well, when it happens to him, I don't want to hear any crying on his
Exactly,
side.
exactly. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. You probably won't hear any crying on his side.
Well, then
You
fine.
probably
Then you
won't.
can't
So,
hit on the guy too much for that. But like you said, watching Gore and Lynch in this game is going to be entertaining. I mean, you have Seattle, who's third in the league in rushing, and the 49ers are second in the league rushing.
and you have two mobile quarterbacks.
You're right about that. And one thing we must not forget about, you have the 12th man
Yeah.
over in Seattle. Let's see how Kaepernick handles that. That should be interesting. And Seattle still has a shot to win this division, which at the start of the season, who would have thought it would have been Seattle challenging them for
I
the division?
never thought Seattle had any chance.
Listen, it's going to be a great game, a low-scoring game. I'm really excited for this one. I love watching defensive showdowns. I think you see way too much scoring in the league nowadays.
Well, I mean, I can see this game being relatively high. I mean, you got to admit, it was a little surprising to see the Patriots drop 31 on that defense.
But that was a sloppy game in the rain. I mean, there were so many turnovers in that game and fumbles and
But
big
who's to
punt
say there aren't
returns.
going to
I
be a
mean,
ton of interceptions in this game? Two quarterbacks that are
but
two
I
young
think
quarterbacks.
I'm going with the 49ers in this one. I mean, I like their defense a little more. I like Frank Gore a little more. It's a real close one. I think Kaepernick has more weapons at his disposal with Moss, Crabtree, and Davis. I think the most interesting thing in this game is to see how Kaepernick handles the 12th man. I mean, will he be able to handle all the noise, the constant pressure? I mean, because we've seen time and time again where he can't even toss the ball left or right
Uh,
or handle a snap.
I don't think the 49ers are going to win this game.
Oh, I think there's no doubt they're
I,
going to win.
I
There's no doubt
have
they're
this
going to win the team.
feeling. I have this feeling that Seattle wants it more, and I know it's really gonna sound like I'm hating on this guy, but I still don't trust Kaepernick. I don't.
He outplayed Tom Brady last week.
I still there's just something about him. I don't know. I'm gonna go with Wilson. I'm gonna go with Lynch. I'm gonna go with that Seattle defense. I'm gonna go with the 12th man. That's the key to the game.
Yeah, but if the 49ers score early, they're going to take that 12 man out quick. But the one thing I'll say in Seattle's favor, they've beaten some good teams at home this year. And the record at home is pretty solid. So I'm picking the 49ers in this game. 17. The Seahawks, 14.
I'm going to take the Seahawks 23, 49ers 20. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at The Final Serve. Like us on Facebook, and please subscribe.
You've just been served.